And now, AM 650 presents your source for leading-edge news and information on today's hottest products and services. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Well, hello and welcome to Experts on Call here on AM 650. On today's program, we're talking about your home and most specifically about the roof on top of your home. It's all about protecting your investment. And back with us from Interprovincial Roof Consultants is the boss, Sean Lang. Hi.
How you doing, Sterling?
I'm fine, thanks. Good to see you again. You are a registered roof observer.
That's right.
What's the difference between a roof observer and a roof inspector?
They're pretty much the same thing. A roof observer is a designation that's given out by the Roof Consultants Institute, or RCI Inc. in the States,
Okay.
which is a very large association that deals with consulting. And the registered roof observer is a test and accreditation that they give out to individuals that have achieved the level of merit that they require in order to be given that designation. So
Okay.
you have to write a test and prove that you are ethically sound and know how to properly review a roof and deal with the situations that arise on a roof. For instance, if there's a conflict between a client and a general contractor and the roofing contractor, how do you deal with those issues? Who's responsible for what? What gets said to what people? Where does the paperwork go? And basically, it's how to advise and middleman the situation so that all parties are properly taken care of and nobody's being one-sided. And once a person learns how to do that, they can ethically and properly do the roof observations. And the reason it's called a roof observation is because we are not installing a roof system.
Right.
We are not there every second of the installation to verify that every single component has been put in properly. We're there periodically. We're there to do spot checks. We're there to do intermittent reviews of the roof system at different times, trying to catch the roofer at different times and catch the process at different times. And that's what a roof observation is all about. We go there and we observe what's going on and we report that back to the individuals that have hired us and any individuals that are part of the process and part of the project.
Is there still a role or a job description called roof inspector? Like municipalities have building inspectors. Do they also have roof inspectors?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's just a different terminology.
Okay.
Right?
Well, it's important, this to kind of get a handle on what we're going to have in this conversation, because when you get into inside an industry, jargon can be confusing. So we're just trying to sort it all out here.
Yeah, we do get asked, why do you call yourselves roof observers? And it's basically, like I just explained, it's part of our designation.
Sure.
So why not use that terminology, right? And it more clearly defines what we're doing. I mean, if you want to say inspector, when you buy a pair of underwear, it says inspected by Agent W or whatever.
Right.
Well, that means the person has gone over that completed piece of underwear and checked everything, checked all the stitches, and put a sticker on it and say it's all good.
Yeah.
A roof observer is reviewing something during the process, and they're looking at the final product, but they haven't seen every single an individual nail that's been put into a roof system, let's just say. Or they haven't watched the application of every single roll that goes down on a roof.
Okay.
We've seen it on a Tuesday. We go there and we see what's going on the roof, and we write a report, and if there's anything that's contrary to the specifications, we document that and we deal with those issues at that time. But Wednesday might come where we don't go there, and Thursday we don't go there. There's not much production going on. And then Friday we go back and we would then check on the things that we noted on Tuesday.
Right.
We would check on any work that was done Wednesday and Thursday of what we can see, because it's now completed work.
Right.
And that's why it's a roof observer, because it's more of a periodic inspection, and that's why they come up with that designation.
I'm asking some pretty almost boring fundamental questions for a professional like yourself, but you must, and you have in previous occasions, I could play the tape if you need it, hear it. You would agree with me that most of us really are comfortable with the fact that the roof doesn't leak, and that's about as far as our knowledge or even concern about our roofs typically goes, right?
Typically, there are people that are very concerned about the appearance of their roof.
True.
In the case of a sloped roof on a house or even on a strata complex, they see a lot of algae growth and moss growth on the roof, and they get concerned. Is it simply an aesthetic issue? Is it affecting the performance of the roof system? And it's actually both in a lot of cases, depending on the extent of that algae growth or moss growth. If you have too much moss on a roof system, it acts like a sponge and it holds water, and it can actually divert water back into the roof system and ultimately into the building, in extreme cases. So aside from the look, it can be a functional problem.
How do you get rid of moss?
Well, it's touchy. I mean, you want to catch it.
In this moist climate, there's a fair bit of it around.
Yeah, you can be really abrasive about it, and you can go in there and just rip it all right off, and you'll take parts of the shingles with them.
Yeah.
You take the granules with them. The ideal thing is to catch it before it grows that thick.
Oh, okay.
Right? You want to pay attention to your roof system, and you want to catch it when you start to see the algae growth and it's just a little green tinge. You want to treat it at that point, kill it then, and then it doesn't grow into the substantial mass that's actually hooked into your roof system.
I was just going to say, so if we're all of a sudden this conversation is already resonating with somebody listening, going, "Oh, I've got everything but a farmer's field on top of my house. It's more than a little grown in." So that clearly is going to be an enormous challenge versus just maintenance on an annual basis, so you nip it in the bud before you get that accumulation.
Yeah, that's the way to properly deal with it. Aside from that, if you were to find that you have moss on your roof and you never noticed it before, there are ways you can deal with it. The first is to kill it. So you have to spray it with a solution, let it die, let it dry, and then hope that some of it falls off on its own. And then you can go up and lightly whisk it off with a broom. But you are going to be damaging the roof system to a minor degree when you do that. You rip it off when it's live and it's healthy and it's gripping on, you're definitely going to damage the shingles and the granule surface of the roof system. When it dies, it has less hold, easier to remove, right? But usually it ends up causing some damage. So you want to treat it in the beginning.
Well, it's that time of year. People looking around, got a little bit of holiday time saved up and not going anywhere because gas is too expensive. So it's a staycation, like it or not. And, well, what are we going to do for the next week?
Let's go clean the roof.
Let's go clean the roof. There's a fun summer holiday. But, you come to a day of reckoning, every homeowner does, where you've just simply got to do something because, Sean, if you don't, then you're asking for trouble, quite literally.
Yeah. Well, if you don't clean your gutters once a year, what happens? They start overflowing, right? So if you don't properly maintain your roof system, you're going to have issues with it in one way or another. On a flat roof system, you can get moss growth, and that's even worse now because people don't look at a flat roof. They can't see it from the ground.
Right,
So now you can end up with a thick carpet over the roof, and I've seen trees growing out of drains because drains are a prime little pot on a roof for growth, right? And especially if there's an elbow immediately below the drain. Debris flows in there, sits in the elbow, accumulates, seeds and stuff from birds flying on. They end up in the drain. And if the drains don't get cleared out, you end up with small trees growing out of the drains.
Good grief.
I've actually seen those. And now that's going to block your drainage, right? But it's a perfect little factory. You've got water flowing into it. It's a self-watering plant.
Sure.
It's a little ecosystem in its own. So you have to go up and maintain your roof. It's very important.
Tell us about Interprovincial Roof Consultants. You, before you formed the company, you were in the business. You were a roofer for 16 years. Tons of experience at the heavy lifting and the ladders and all of that stuff. So then you decided to step aside and move on and up. And you formed this new company, Interprovincial Roof Consultants. Obviously, there was a niche. There was a need for this. How long ago did that happen, and how's it going?
Well, I actually bought the company.
Okay.
It's been in business since 1982. So it's been around for a long time. And what happened was I was roofing for 16 years, as you said, and the aches and pains start to build because roofing is quite a rough trade. So there is a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of tough work involved in our industry. And I started to look for another part of our industry that would be interesting, where my mind would be more useful rather than my body.
Right.
And inspecting always seemed like interesting work. You're still involved in the roofing process, but you're actually dealing with more of the fundamentals of it and the application of it and how and why things happen, rather than just doing what's supposed to be done. Just move those rolls. No, I'm not just doing that anymore. Why do we want that material on the roof? What's going to make this roof system last? What kind of insulation needs to be put on there? All these other interesting parts of our industry started to show up once I got into the consulting and roof observation end of it. So I ran into an inspector on a roof and started talking to him about it, and I told him that I was going for an operation for my carpal tunnel, and he said, well, come and work for me afterwards. So I did, and then I ended up buying the company off of him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So already you were heading in that direction simply because the daily the work wore you down. It's, as you say, it's a tough gig. It's not out in the forest cutting down trees, but on the list of arduous tasks Canadians perform, roofing is in the top 5.
Oh, I'd say, yeah, especially midsummer.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many challenges. There's excess heat in the summer. You're up on a roof and it's 32 degrees outside. Well, it might be 42 on the roof, and then you're torching down rolls with a 2,000 degree torch, which is blowing a flame that could end up being a foot wide at the end of the flame. That heat's all radiating back on you, and you're walking on a substance that's just been superheated. And there's guys that actually end up getting heat stroke sometimes.
I can well imagine. I was going to say you're losing weight by the second under conditions like that.
Yeah. Then there's the weight of all the rolls are 100+ pounds each, and you have to move them around and toss them around while you're doing the work. Bundles of shingles are excessively heavy, and your body gets tired. Tearing off a roof is hard work.
Sure.
It's hard, dirty work. So, and then you got the challenge of rain, which I think we have a little. So that really plays into our day, because even on the most beautiful summer day, and this has happened to me, where the sun is perfectly blue, and you tear off a large chunk of roof. Now you've got a roof exposed. The whole building is exposed. It's like, you've opened it right up, and this one cloud comes rolling in.
Yeah, and parks right over top of where you're working.
Yeah, and just let's go. And it's happened. It's happened to many different roofers in their careers.
Of course,
it's one of those rites of passage, actually.
Now, I wanted to ask you about that. Let me hold you on the rain, since you brought it up, and we've already talked about moss and other accumulation of things that are driven largely by humidity and moisture. So if and we see this all the time in these new subdivisions going on, and even on a renovation job, how does one build a roof in Metro Vancouver in the rain? Ideally, you would want not to have raining conditions. You'd want everything to be bone dry when that roof is being built up or being put on. But if you're, building a subdivision, Sean, and there's 22 houses to be completed by the 1st of August, it doesn't matter what the weather is. You're going to have those crews out there doing their job. Yeah. What is the difference between a roof put on during the rainy conditions versus one that is installed under ideal dry conditions at the end of the day?
Well, when the roof is put on in less than ideal conditions, meaning less than perfect 100% dry conditions, there's a potential for the life of the roof to be shortened. Initially, it looks the same as any other roof system, but because depending on the kind of roofing. I mean, if it's a flat roof system and water has been trapped within the membrane plies or within the insulation layer or on top of the vapor barrier, or wherever it ends up in the system, over time it will expand and contract as it gets heated, causing the roof system to basically get forced apart, or that's what it's called, blistering. So the blisters expand and contract. The moist air will expand 1,000 times in volume, and that it continually increases as the membrane is separated from itself. So seams in the system get forced apart, and now you have more water ingress within the system. So by installing a roof system or rushing through the installation of a roof system in less than perfect conditions, you're compromising the long-term life of the roof system.
If I'm a homeowner, though, and that's my house, the third one on the left down the street that soon will be paved, and the guys are coming in next week to do the roof, and if the weather is just dreadful next week, should I stop them?
If you can. I doubt you can. Because if you're buying a house in a subdivision that's being built, you're not the owner yet, right? You've basically put your money down, but the general contractor is still the one, or the developer is still the owner until they hand you the keys.
True.
So they're in charge of the production. And when on a new construction project, there's a lot of push from different parties, the developer, the general contractor who's in charge of all the other sub-trades.
Sure.
And that push drives work to be done in, more often than not, less than perfect conditions.
Right.
And we see that all the time, where because the general wants something done by next Tuesday, it's got to be done by next Tuesday.
So if you approach the head man on the crew and say, look, it's about to pour and it's going to rain for the next 4 days, would you please build somebody else's roof? I'd rather not. You didn't build my roof. And are they going to say, well, it's not your roof, and take a hike? if you're lucky.
Yeah, more than likely that's what would happen.
Okay.
Because the roofers have their own schedule. They're being pushed by the general contractor.
Right.
They got to. There's other trades that are depending on the roof, the building becoming watertight. Drywallers can't do their work till the roof is on. So there's a whole schedule and process that's in play during any construction project, whether it's a single building or a multi-building complex. So they'll start on the first building, the foundation gets poured, then the foundation guys move to the next lot and build a foundation, while this first foundation is now being framed. And you can, if you spend time looking at any construction site, you can see the progression.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you drive down a street in a subdivision and you see houses in various stages of completion.
Exactly. So, and then eventually the owners they'll sell off that first unit, so the first building will be sold while the last one's still being built. Right. So it is a progression, and to be the owner or the potential owner of the 14th building in a complex of 28, let's just say, and you say, no, I want mine done on a sunny day.
You're going to be really lucky if they tell you to take a hike.
Yeah, good luck.
They could get a little sharper tongued, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, interesting to know, because it's certainly something that every homeowner in British Columbia, whether you live in a 200-unit apartment building or a single-family home in the burbs, every one of us is aware of the fact, to one degree or another, that there is a roof somewhere up there. And if it was built or installed under adverse weather conditions, that's pretty normal for Vancouver.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say it's normal. It does happen. It's definitely not desired, and that's what people have to know, is that you do not want to be installing any roof system when it's raining or when it's excessively moist out. What I mean is if there's a heavy mist in the air. Clouds, of course, are okay.
Yep.
But if there's a heavy dew and it's falling, there are roof systems you can't install in that. Shingle systems you can, but like a flat roof system you shouldn't be installing when there's a heavy dew. It's condensating on the product that you're installing. Well, that moisture is going to be trapped.
Right. You're installing it and trapping it at the same time. Oh, isn't that counterproductive?
Heavy foggy day like we have sometimes, those days, the condensation that forms on the roof actually prohibits you from doing any work.
Interesting.
Yet it's not raining.
Our guest is the president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants. Sean Lang is back with us on Experts on Call. And when we come back from the break, you talk about getting fundamental with your guest. I'm going to back Sean up 16 plus years, and we'll talk about the types of, you've talked about roof systems, and you've used that phrase half a dozen times already. We're going to find out exactly what that means and what's involved after this quick timeout on AM 650.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call, and there's more still ahead on AM 650.